All right, well, thanks again for everybody for joining and taking the time today. We're excited to kind of give you an overview and a demo of our new Insights Plus feature that we've added to Device42. My name is Ken Wooten. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management here at Device42. I've only been here for a couple of months, joined back in April, so I haven't met most of you, but I look forward to working with you guys for over the next few months and quarters. Prior to Device42, I worked in the IT service management space with Cherwell and Avante. And then also joining us today is Jason Goldberg, the Solutions Architect Director. Jason's been with Device42 for about 7 years and leads the solution architect team. So he's going to be providing, after I provide a quick introduction, he's going to be giving you a demo of some of the new dashboards that we have available with Insights. So I'm going to start off with just kind of an overview of really why we did this and what the purpose of Insights Plus and how it fits into the product. Really, the challenge that we're trying to solve is Device42 collects so much data, and it's fairly complex data from inventory data and dependency data and so forth. And the challenge we've always had is kind of how do you actually visualize that? How do you get the data and use it to provide value for your organization? We've got a lot of ways to do that in the product today. We've got built-in charts and lists, and there's a lot of interactivity in the UI that you can use. We also have our classic reporting, our advanced reporting that all have value in their own area. But for a lot of more complex scenarios, it becomes very, very difficult to really visualize that data without something a little bit more powerful. So that's why Insights Plus, that's why we kind of worked on this project and why we're excited to share that with you today. So really what this is an integrated BI tool within the product. So it's a tool that allows you to visualize your data, to really see the breadth and depth of the data that we have within the system and make better business decisions based on that. What this essentially is there's a product out there from Apache called Superset. And this is an open source BI tool. Some of you may be familiar with that. We've now integrated that into the product, and that's what's really driving all of the visualizations and dashboards that you're gonna see today, as well as, and I'll talk a little bit in a couple of slides about the roadmap going forward and some enhancements that we have. But core to that engine is this Apache Superset. You don't need to know anything specific about Superset. This is integrated in with the product. It comes as part of the upgrade with 18.0. But just so that you're aware, that's kind of the engine that happens in the background. So what we've done is integrated this in. It's called Insights Plus within the product, and Jason will show that to you in a little bit. And then as part of this 18.0, we've got a number of dashboards that we're delivering out of the box that can kind of get you started to kind of see the value and visualize that data. Now, a couple of things I really want to key on is number one, there's no charge for this. The fact that we've got a third-party product in there, it's integrated within the product. You get it for free when you upgrade to 18.0 or any release after that. So there's no additional licensing, no additional charge for that. The other is the other reporting tools that you may use are not going away. They each have their own value. You look at advanced reports and classic reports are great for more tabular data and exporting data out to other systems. Those have their place, and so we don't have any plans to replace those or really change what you have today. This is additive. The other reason that we're not doing anything is we know you all have investments in creating a lot of reports, especially with the advanced reporting tool, and we want you to continue to be able to use that and leverage that. So this is really just adding more value on top of what you have today. So similar to the complexity of how to visualize data, the complexity of the data in the back end also creates some challenges for the actual querying and creating reports and so forth. So a couple of releases ago, we introduced the concept of data building blocks, and essentially what these are predefined SQL views of of the Device42 data keyed around specific use cases. So in 18.0, we released 2 data building block, what we call cookbooks, around compute and security. And you can see there on the slide, there's some examples of some of the individual queries that are in there. On the right, this is just an example of one of the data building blocks around VM density, just to give you an example of how complex some of this data is. So you as a customer can use these eventually to build dashboards in Insights Plus, but also can use these in other reporting areas within the product. And again, it's just so that right out of the box, we've got some predefined these views that you can just utilize, without having to learn the data structure, learn the query language, and so forth. So those are available as well. As I mentioned, we've got compute and security right now. We'll be adding some more as we go forward in the future. But those are also what the dashboards that Jason is going to show you are built in most cases on these data building blocks. The other advantage of those is performance. So as you add more and more reporting capabilities, more dashboard capabilities to the system, obviously that can create a load on the system, and these are really optimized to perform as good as possible within the system. So look out for those. I think Jason will kind of touch on where you can kind of get to that list. It's also in our help documentation as well of what those data building blocks are. So over the next few quarters, we will continually to enhance Insights Plus. And so here's just a snapshot of what that roadmap is going to look like. So 18.0 that we just released a couple of weeks ago really introduces you to the Insights Plus platform. We've got 7 out-of-the-box dashboards, although the one I think that Jason's going to show you has sub-tabs, so it's really ultimately more than 7, but there's 7 high-level dashboards. You also have the ability to import additional dashboards. So as we build and release dashboards, as folks from Jason's team build additional ones, you'll have the ability to import those without upgrading the platform once you're on 18.0. And then the compute and security data building blocks that I mentioned as well. So that's what you get with 18.0 once you upgrade to that. Again, no additional licensing, no additional charge. Those just come as part of your upgrade. And then later in Q3, really where I think that this becomes a real game changer for our customers and partners is the introduction of the dashboard builder. So today you can only view the dashboards that we provide you out of the box, or if you import them. Once we have the dashboard builder, you'll be able to build the same types of dashboards that we have. You can take the dashboards that we deliver and maybe take a couple of widgets from one and another and combine them into your own. And really, it'll give you that full power to really take advantage of this and build things that are appropriate for your organization. We're also going to have additional dashboards out of the box. We'll continue to deliver those and additional data building blocks as well. And then when we get into the future, so at this point, we're looking at toward the end of the year into next year. One of the key things there is the creation of an online community that allow both Device42, our partners, and our customers to share dashboards with each other. And so we really want to open it up and allow those of you who have maybe invested a lot of time and you want to show that off to the community to be able to do that, as well as to take advantage of dashboards that have been built by other customers and partners within the Device42 community. And then you'll see a number of additional kind of Insights platform enhancements as we go. So I mentioned earlier, this is based on Apache Superset, which is a product that has ongoing development, and as those new features are available, we will make them available to our customers as well. There's also a whole kind of ecosystem of third-party companies that have plugins for this product, and we'll make those available where appropriate. So I think through Q4 and next year, you really can continue to see a lot of enhancements to that platform. All right, so I mentioned earlier, all you need to do is update to 18.0 in order to get everything that I talked about that's being released in that release. Here's some instructions. A lot of you probably already gone through this, is to go to device42.com/update. You can also get to it from the tools update menu from within Device42. Follow these instructions. You'll get a link to download and upgrade. The only additional thing that you need to do is, after upgrading, there's a new permission called data building blocks, and you need to assign that permission to any users that you want to expose the Insights Plus functionality to. So that's just one extra step that needs to happen. So initially, when you upgrade, you're not going to see the Insights Plus, unless you're a super user, and you'll have to go ahead and set that permission. But beyond that, it's just a typical upgrade for customers that you're used to doing. After this webinar, we're going to send out some additional information. This presentation is being recorded, and we will share that out. And then if you have any additional questions, we've got our help documentation. You can contact support like you do with any other question or anything about the Device42 product. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning was we are going to have some time at the end of this webinar to answer some live questions. So there should be a questions box in there that you can submit your questions in, and then Jason and I will kind of go through those when we're done with the webinar. Any questions that we don't get to or we don't know answers to, we'll send those out in a digest format for everybody after the webinar is over. All right, with that, I will turn that over to Jason, and he can show you the good stuff that I think you're all here to see.
Awesome, thanks, Cam. All right, so let's jump into Insights Plus. So briefly, of course, I do just want to show the homepage and dashboard that we're all very familiar with. It's been in the product in various iterations pretty much for the last 10 years. But you have quite a few different options now on how you want to view your home dashboard and the dashboard available within that. So with Insights Plus, you can actually select any of the Insights Plus dashboards to be the first view you get on your home page. So there is a particular dashboard that is more relevant to your specific users or your usage of Device42, you can now toggle and get to those various dashboards. And of course, as the builder becomes available that Ken mentioned, this will be available to you to even select your custom dashboards within the product in your home page. So that's all right available from the home screen here, getting to the dashboards, and the functionality from it is going to be largely the same as you would get from the Insights Plus menu, just a little less screen real estate. It's certainly a nice new feature that comes along with version 18. So Insights Plus, all access right from that, clearly that top menu item here. And you have your various dashboards as well as imported dashboards. So there is a functionality to import dashboards today. So if there are customization requests you have with Device42 support, or your customer success team, or through an SA, there is potential to have modifications to these dashboards and have them imported. And they would appear here as these imported dashboards, as you see here. And then you have access to the data dictionary, which does include the compute and security DBBs, so you can filter specifically to the Device42 building blocks or the traditional DOCL views that have existed for quite some time now. And then the specific DBB cookbooks, which use those compute recipes and security recipes. So some of the dashboards use VM density and VM inventory. VM density in particular is one of my favorite queries in this to use. It's a great one to understand CPU and memory subscription and where you have virtual resources that are powered off that are allocated. So I would definitely recommend checking that one out of the recipes that are currently available. All right, so let's jump into the dashboard. So there are quite a few here with high-level descriptions of what's available to them. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on the infrastructure analysis dash, which really is purpose-built and designed in Superset and in Insights Plus to really showcase the functionality available from that. The other dashboards have similar options that have existed prior to in Power BI. So if you've used Power BI on the dashboards there, you'll see some overlap with those, but this is really all new visualizations and insights that we really haven't had before. So we start with location, inventory, and hierarchy, and this gives a great way to visualize trends of your various locations that are on-prem data centers, public cloud, virtual estates, wherever that may be. And it is using cloud data and various data to associate those categories without manual manipulation. So as long as something exists within a building or is in a cloud provider, it's going to automatically associate it to AWS or to Azure or GCP or the associated building. So if we have use cases where we are auditing inventory that's being discovered, we can see if there's like shadow IT that's coming up. There's a bunch of systems that have no location. They're not associated to a building. They don't belong in part of any network or service that relates to a cloud provider. We can see those trends. Maybe we have an initiative to grow our New Haven data center, like in this case, or move that footprint outside of New Haven and into AWS. We can see if that trend is occurring. Are we having new resources added that month into AWS or into Azure or whatever those other services may be? And you can interact and manipulate these timelines. So this view, as it's designed, is showing the last 12 months. Certainly it could be modified to include further than that, but you can select this timeline, look at specific areas of that timeline as well if you wanted to drill into a certain month or period of time. Now there are filters on all of these different elements. So on the left side, these filters will allow us to look at data for certain resource categories by the location, room. So really self-explanatory to use. So just something to keep in mind as we go through these dashboards, you'll find filters available in some of them to allow changing and navigating between these data. The location hierarchy, I really like to use in particular to allow what slices of our location or public cloud impact the largest number of resources. So this actually looks at a building, the room, the rack, and then the host or device and compute system that exists. So we can see on this slice that this particular rack, NHDC104, impacts a large portion of our environment. Actually, 5% of our estate is impacted by this single rack. And then we can see the compute and systems on that. So these are all going to be hypervisors or various blade chassis that have other guests and hosts on them. So we can start to see those elements of where is potentially our largest risk, where is our largest footprint across our environment that existed. So if we had a power outage in a PDU or UPS went out, we can see what slice of our environment is going to be impacted by that. Then high level bar chart, what locations exist, number of resources, whether they're currently running or not with that in-service flag. And then a lot of these dashboards are all going to have tables, so I can drill into specific resources. So if I wanted to search for anything that's in Amazon or that is in New Haven or for a specific host name, you can search across all those columns, quickly find data that you might care about, with links to drill into the detailed device pages and then various relational views. From here, we start to get a bit more detail into all the relationships about these workloads. So we take a high-level location inventory view, start to understand what locations exist, what are those trends, and then actually let's look at some of the impacts of those workloads within those locations. So we start looking at this from the hypervisor level. So we can now visualize based upon the allocated CPU and memory and what's associated to the guests running on that host, what is the degree of CPU or memory subscription? So we might define a reasonable boundary of oversubscription in our environment. Maybe that is between 200 to 300% of workloads would be efficiently subscribed if they're a production workload. If they're beyond 300% CPU subscription, then that could be a potential performance risk. So we can quickly identify those exceptions, as well as where do we have resources inefficiently being used. So if we have efficient energy systems where we'd probably want to make sure we have our highest level of oversubscription to make sure we're efficiently using energy in our data center, we can see and make sure and validate, is there a degree of CPU subscription or do we have underutilized or not utilized resources on them? This view is showing all of the virtualization hosts to guests. So of course, you can see a lot of different noise here, all of our different hypervisor systems and the guests they impact. And you can interact with the legend to see your buildings and the hosts from that. So now we're looking at just New Haven and a to be named building here and the hosts and guests that they interact with. So if I'm looking at all of these systems, I wanted to drill into a specific host, you can select that, see those guests. We'll have cross filtering in different details so you can interact with these slices to interact and change all of the other visualizations within this view as well. And of course, again, as we look at a host, specific details and tables to drill into the actual detailed elements available within any of these charts. Something that's pretty unique in Insights Plus is our usage of our power monitoring data. So we've had different Excel and CSV reports, as well as a trending view from a PDU available within the tool for some time. However, this now lets us look at that data from a greater period in span of that. So now you can actually see from the past 30 days, when do we have certain days of the week that might be drawing more power than others? So we look at the apparent power value of those monitored PDUs, as well as what location, room, rack is drawing the greatest number of power. In this case, we're calculating that as kVA. That definitely could be modified to look at a certain different measure if that was interesting to you, but by default, it's going to be looking at the kVA and the apparent power. Then a simple sum of the kVA in the past 30 days. And even by rack, unfortunately, our data doesn't really change too much over time. So it's pretty static, same draw data day, and then a pivot table to quickly draw into those resources. Interesting here too is if you use business applications, you can start to assess and associate through this visual what business applications or business units are connected to those power resources. So how are they impacted by a power outage? What systems connect to that PDU? And that would even potentially get you back to associate that kVA in systems that are drawing and related to a certain business unit. How much power are those business units or business applications consuming? And we use this node chart a lot, but it becomes a great way to visualize from an object, in this case, the PDU, what systems is it impacting? So as you view the different monitoring and relational data, we can see how everything interacts across our infrastructure. And on the application mapping side, this has always been very commonly used in Power BI and something we really wanted to move into the tool itself. And it gives a great way to very quickly look across all the different application interactions and workload interactions and communication across systems in a much larger view than we've had before. If you use affinity groups or topology, you know that's generally isolated to specific workloads that are currently in view. But this allows you to filter by your business applications, potentially by tags or other metadata, so you can quickly navigate across those relationships, see different application component categories here. So we actually can see from our mainframe LPAR, the bottom here, if I scroll down, all these unmapped guests that communicate to that LPAR that we could go and discover and see who those are that are connecting from. I can remove those undiscovered clients, start to look at where do we have systems that are mapped or not mapped to an application, what is a web server or not. So these are using those application component classifications, and we can see how those systems interact with each other. So we have our web, middleware, and database server all interacting with each other. And as you map and model those two business applications, we'll take that communication data and high level show you the systems that exist in multiple business applications, how they interact and who they're interacting with, so you can get that higher level view across all of those systems. Then of course, the distinct and unique communication across each of those workloads. So as we look at all those different relationships on a high level, the business applications on the listening, receiving communication side, and the clients sending data, so we can get to the granular details of each of these different relationships in view. And lastly, as part of the infrastructure analysis, Something that is quite new, using the new resources data, but showing you where's the largest consumption of resources across all those different service types. And do we have trends in growth in containers as a service? Are we spinning up new EKS or GCP, Kubernetes resources, or Azure, wherever it may be, infrastructure as a service or platform as a service type services? What is that growth and trends of those systems? So that's the start of that year. We had growth in IaaS and PaaS, but more recently, we started to spin up a lot of container resources in GCP and Azure. And we can see in this pivot table, those cloud services, what cloud vendor they're a part of, the accounts and organizations, zones and resources and counts. So if a specific zone had an outage, we can see what resources, accounts, and services are going to be impacted by that. And again, the specific resources themselves to drill into and get more detail about from the device page. So these all open new tabs. You can get into the nitty-gritty of any device or resource visualization. That gives a high-level preview really of what's possible of Insights Plus, and we really only touched on the surface with the first dashboard here. So I'm going to pause my screen share. We're going to turn it over to some questions and get those addressed.
All right, thanks, Jason. Yeah, we got a few questions in. So first one is asking about how many dashboards are we going to release. So in 18.0, there are 7 dashboards, although the one that Jason just showed, you saw there were actually 5 tabs within them. So effectively, it's more than 7, but there are 7 high-level dashboards that you'll see on that screen that Jason was just ended on. There's a question about the permissions to access it and the cost. So I touched on that earlier, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Number one, there's no additional cost for this. It comes with your upgrade. No additional setup. You're going to upgrade other than setting that permission that I mentioned in a previous slide. So you do need to go in and select the data building blocks permission so that your users do have access to Insights. But other than that, that's all you need to do. Question around creating your own reports. So that will be available when we release the dashboard builder functionality. Right now, planned for end of Q3. So look forward to that probably in the September timeframe is really what we're shooting for. Let's see what else we got here. And then what's going to happen to Power BI and advanced reporting. So I mentioned this is additive. Nothing is going away. In terms of Power BI, we did create some Power BI dashboards and we haven't made them available on GitHub. Those will still be available. We're not going to continue our development in Power BI. So if you grab those and you're using them or you're building your own Power BI, you can continue to do that. Our focus going forward will be to doing those dashboards and visualizations in the Insights Plus platform instead. So again, you can continue to use that. Same thing with advanced reporting, classic reports, that will all still remain in place. And as you learn more about the Insights platform and see some of the dashboards we have, you can kind of decide where the best place for that is. But those will be living side by side for the foreseeable future. And then the other question we have, let's see. So how do the Insights Plus dashboards relate to the existing Power BI dashboards? So some of the dashboards that you saw on the list, not the one that Jason went through, but some of the other ones in there are very, very close matches to the Power BI dashboards that were released. So our goal there at a minimum is to try to kind of cover those use cases. And as I mentioned on the roadmap, we'll have more dashboards coming out in the, potentially with each release. And so really, if you haven't started with the Power BI stuff today, I would encourage you just to focus on Insights Plus because we'll be covering those. And then there's a question on customer feedback. Same as any other feedback on the product. You can email to support at Device42 or call them support and give them feedback and suggestions and so forth, or questions about that platform. All right, let me just see if there's anything else.
There's a question on, can we restrict the homepage for all users to be set to one Insight dashboard? Not currently. If a user has the permission to view the Insights dashboards, they do have access to all of them. So that is something to think about right now, at least at this iteration.
All right, did I miss any other? I think we got to most of the questions.
There's a question about can we move, for example, app-to-app dashboard to different screen because it's too laggy in the application mapping tab. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Alex. We can certainly make modifications. I mentioned at the start, there is a way to import them. So there are certain customizations maybe unique to your use case we could potentially make, but suggestions like that would be great to get to support, and we can have that as consideration in future iterations of those dashboards.
Okay, well, I think that's all the questions we have for now. Certainly, as I mentioned, if you have additional ones after the webinar, feel free to reach out to support. All the attendees, we're going to receive a link to the recording, and then we'll provide along with that some more information, as well as a summary of any of the questions, anything that comes in late. Question-wise, we'll respond in that as well. But for now, that's it. Thanks for your time today. We hope you found some value in it, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on this new feature. So thank you. Goodbye.